Look at the bump on that kid. Did you
I
just
know,
do
eh?
some pull-ups before you got on camera?
Yeah, push-ups and pull-ups.
Holy, you were looking good.
I won't hold you down.
How's it going, guys? This is the Roundtable with Bujan Goaltending. I am your host, Derek Bujan, joined as always with my fellas and my boys, Jamie Phillips and Michael Albanese. We have some
co-host.
breaking.
Your co-host and equals.
It's true. If I do not say co-host, I get text messages with hate mail and just that emoji.
It's my contract that you will
the kid
say
is
co-host.
crying. It's true. I'm going to throw this over to Jamie. Jamie's got some breaking news for you guys. I'll let him go from here.
Yeah, breaking news. As of 5 minutes ago, I officially retired from professional hockey. Competitive hockey, we'll say maybe, but for the time being, professional hockey. I've taken a coaching job at Michigan Tech. I'll be going back to school, getting my master's, and hopefully going on to get a doctorate of physical therapy one day. But it's official. I'm done.
Done.
Wow, congrats, buddy.
Done. Hey, thanks, Alvo.
Yeah, we didn't fill you in on this until just now. So Alvo is here just for the first time, as everybody else is.
So
well, I got the email. I got the email 5 minutes ago saying that my application was all set up and everything. So
yeah, the last time I heard you were waiting on getting accepted into your master's from Tech. So now I assume that's the call you got and that's the decision you made.
Yeah, done deal. So it's nice, exciting. It's different. Now I have to, for the first time in my life, my life is not centered around being the best goalie I can be. It's now around getting other goalies to be the best they can be. And my studies, it's honestly, it feels pretty good to be done. I was over it for quite some time, and now it's official.
I'm getting emotional here. This is kind of bittersweet for me. So Jamie was my first guy, and kind of went through the roller coaster and the ups and downs with him. So I knew this day was coming, but I'm pretty proud of you, buddy. I'm glad that you're moving on to bigger and better things, and can't wait to exploit you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Booge. It was a good sentimental chat right there, because I'm just gonna block your cell number. But it wasn't for you, then I definitely wouldn't have got to where I was able to get to, because you're willing to put up with me and work with me every day and experiment and figure out what worked and what didn't work. And fortunately, it paid off, and now we can kind of hopefully pass on a little bit of that knowledge to the next generations of goalies.
This is crazy, because this wasn't planned. We literally were just on here, and you got word. So it's not like we could have kind of came to terms with this before we were filming. So for those of you guys that are watching, and this is real. So I couldn't be happier. I couldn't. Yeah, I'm super proud of you, man. And let's talk about what you're going to do with in the goalie world moving forward here now.
Tough. I mean, obviously, quarantine put a bit of banter on everything. I would have liked to have coached a bit, in the summers, but for right now, it's prepare and continue to grow as a goalie coach the best I can without being on the ice. So I'm prepared to take over with the goalies at Tech. It's really it, I guess. I wish there was more to say, but unfortunately, the pandemic we're in kind of halts everything. Now I just continue to grow my knowledge in terms of goalie coaching.
As you look forward to your first full season as a goalie coach for Tech, there's got to be a whole set of emotions that you're feeling right now after going back to your alma mater, finishing your pro career. What are you looking forward to the most out of the season, out of this year?
Trying all of it. It's going to be different to be on the coaching side of things, no longer a player. Fortunately, I'm not a head coach or in that role, and I get to focus just on the goalies and not as much on the systems and all that. And if there's one thing I know, it's goalies, and if there's another thing I know, it's how to handle the pressure of playing at a historic hockey college like Tech, and then transitioning that game into pro. And so that's the only thing. That's what I want to do. I want to take goalies and win games with Tech, and take those goalies into the pro level, and so that they can go on and experience the same things I was able to experience, and live the dream for how many years it takes.
So it's when you immediately come out of the game, then step into that role, you know exactly what those kids are going to need. So
no, I'll just say, so my job basically, obviously, is technique, skill development, growing them as goalies and individuals, as well as I'm the middleman between the head coach and the goalies. And that's a relationship. That's one of the most important parts of a goalie coach, because if you don't have that relationship, it's really hard to talk to someone, especially if that someone is also controls whether you start or not. So as a goalie coach, I can hear everything from both ends. I hear what the coach is saying and translate it for the goalies, and I can hear what the goalies are saying and translate it to the coach. And just so that the goalies focus on their thing and the coach worries about his thing. And it's a role that sometimes I had in pro, sometimes I had in college. So like Derek said, like when you're just out of the game, first of all, you know how the game is being played, because the game is always changing. So for the next few years, I'm still going to be relevant in what I did and able to, work with technique and stuff. And I think that's going to be important. Not like some goalie coaches out there that haven't played since, the 70s, and it's really hard for them to understand why you would do this, why you do that, when they can't strap it on and go and play. So fortunately, getting right into it, and that's nice. I don't have much of a transition time between retiring and coaching.
Yeah, it's super important to have a goalie coach. A lot of people don't know I was a head coach in junior for a couple of years, and the very first thing I did was hire a goalie coach. So I could yell at the goalie coach when the goalies weren't playing well, and the goalies could yell at the goalie coach when I was being an ass. So it goes both ways too. It's just it creates that buffer zone between the head coach and the goalies, which is what you need in today's game, because the stress on winning especially at the college and Division I level, is so high because it's their livelihood. So winning games pays the bills. So if you don't have that buffer, sometimes the goalies kind of get the raw end of the deal and become kind of the whipping boy. So Jamie, be prepared to be the whipping boy even in your new role, because it's coming.
We're pleased to introduce our next guest, Carmine Guerriero, one of my nemesises from college, after an insane triple overtime game we had in playoffs one year, which we'll get into later. But Carmine has played at University of Alabama Huntsville, played pro in the East Coast, played in France, is retired, and is now working, and is also an NCAA goalie coach. So let's get into that. So what made you decide to retire?
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on, guys. I decided to retire because my girlfriend and I decided that it was kind of time to settle down. To be honest with you, she was graduating from university, and she got this awesome opportunity to start work right away. And for me, I just wasn't where I wanted to be in my career. I had this goal in mind, and I just wasn't happy where I was at that point in time. So, I kind of transitioned into the work world and started off in sales, and I've been there since. So, that's pretty much it.
How did you get hooked up with St. Lawrence, University of St. Lawrence, as the goalie coach?
Okay, so my goalie coach, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pierre Gru. He's the goalie coach for the Ottawa Senators, and I teach at his camp in the summers. And this past summer, while I was teaching at his camp, he's like, "Hey, there's an opening at St. Lawrence for a goalie coach because the whole staff changed." I was like, "That's pretty cool, but I'm pretty busy. I don't know if I have time to drive down to Canton, New York." But we kind of spoke about it, and then he's like, "Let me just shoot your name out to the coach and see what's up." So he did, and next thing you know, I was having conversations with Brent Brecky, the head coach at St. Lawrence, and I just decided to do it. I wanted to stay. The fact that I wasn't playing anymore kind of it hurt a little, because hockey was such a big part of my life, and then I was like, that's a cool way of staying around the game and involved. And so I was doing goalie camps. I mean, every summer, coaching for a bunch of guys, and I always loved doing it. So I was like, what better opportunity than to coach like D1 hockey? Like that's kind of cool. So that's how it all happened.
So when you transition from coaching at camps into being basically in charge of development for a group of 3 goalies,
yeah,
to me that changes from you're now an instructor now into coaching, which is a big difference to me. So talk about kind of as a first year goalie coach, what did you learn that you didn't know before when you were just working at camps and kind of being an instructor for drills?
You're absolutely right. Like it's very different. I've like in camps, it's pretty like repetitive, right? You're coaching like the same thing to a group of kids, whereas now you're transitioning to like you said, development of 3 guys, and I find that at that level, you know, everyone has their own style. Everyone kind of plays a certain way, and you can't, in my opinion, teach like the same thing to everyone. Like it's got to be tailored, I find. And that was part of like me being in college and having volunteer goalie coaches, and some guys that didn't necessarily have like a lot of coaching experience that came to volunteer with us. Like I realized that, you know, we were doing the same thing for all 3 of us. And to me, I was like, it would get frustrating at times because I'm like, I can't play like a 6'5" goalie. Like I'm not like that. I can't play the same way. So I found that throughout this process this last year, it was like, you know, you kind of had to pinpoint like what one guy needs to work on and kind of work with him with that, and then find something else for the other guy because he might not necessarily have the same, you know, issue, or you know what I mean? Like it's different for everyone, I find. And so that was the biggest learning thing, was how do I create practices and stuff like that where I could kind of incorporate teaching points for everyone in one practice, because I was only there once a week. So I didn't have like, you know, the luxury of having like every day with these guys where I could work separately with them. So I guess that was the biggest challenge for me.
So did you watch a lot of video of their games on the weekend?
Yeah, we have this app that the team uses, and basically all of the games are on there, and the coaches would cut all of the clips. So like I could see all the goalie touches, all the goals against, all the saves, chances against, whatever. So I'd watch that stuff and kind of, you know, tailor my practice to the past weekend. But also I didn't want to focus too much on the last weekends. Like sure, it's fine to see the mistakes and to kind of fix them, but I also wanted the guys to look forward to the next weekend, you know, and not dwell in the past. So we worked on, like, I mean, we fixed things and we had fun, and it was definitely like a tough season because the team was rebuilding. I mean, it was kind of funny. Like it kind of reminded me of my first year at UAH where we only won 2 games. Like that's the kind of season they were having. And I remember myself in that situation as a college student athlete. Like you get extremely drained and frustrated, and I just want to find ways to like help these guys get out of that mindset, you know.
Now, you were driving there once a week. What things did you do to kind of optimize your time that you got with each goalie in that one session you had a week?
So that was a challenge. Like, I mean, at the beginning of the season, like I said, we were practicing out of Canton, and we only had about 20 to 30 minutes of goalie sessions. So that was like, man, I can't even like, it was so hard to even come up with something because there's so little time, you know, with each goalie. Like it was virtually no time at all, to be honest. But when we started practicing at the rink, when it was fully renovated, I really take the time to like plan my practices out the night before, and you know, do my homework, because again, like you have to optimize the time. So for me, I would just make sure that I knew exactly what I was going to do before I got there. I explained the drills to the guys, tell them like what we want to work on, why we want to work on it. Sometimes like it was just to try stuff, to, try new things. And I would explain the drills to the shooters before we got on the ice, because how shooters are, like they just freaking
Yeah.
do their thing and like go and shoot pucks and stuff. And then but yeah, so it was really all about, to me, preparation. Like I had to be prepared because I only had a limited amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do my best to kind of get everyone flowing. Like I couldn't do like 20 minutes with one guy, 20 minutes with another guy. It was like too choppy, So we tried that once, and I didn't really like it. So from then on, we kind of did everyone on the ice at the same time, and we did, some drills where guys had to work on things, and the other goalie would work on something else. But it was like, for the most part, the same drills, just different teaching points to the other goalies. So
let's talk further on that, because what makes a goalie coach successful is their ability to work on different aspects with different goalies and be able to, exactly what you said, is tailor the development to the individual. So talk about the kind of the goalies you were working with in St. Lawrence and kind of the difference in their games and their strengths and their weaknesses.
Yeah, so it was funny because like we had 3 goalies that were completely different. Like all 3 of them just so different in the way they played. The senior goalie, he was like extremely competitive, didn't quit on it. Like technically, you probably wouldn't think that he's like a top goalie. If you saw him technically, you'd be like, oh, like he kind of seems a little off. But his work ethic was the reason why he played the majority of the games. Like this guy was just like a warrior, Then we had this freshman, French Canadian kid who's just like raw talent, never had a goalie coach in his life before going to St. Lawrence. Or actually he had a guy in juniors that was with him for a year or two, but before him, he didn't have anyone else. So it was interesting because this guy was so raw, like extremely talented, just raw. Like there's a lot of things to work on with him. And then there was the Swede who was, this guy, like technically looks like an NHL goalie. Like he's so fluid. Like it was incredible to watch. But the problem with him was it was almost like, it looked like nonchalant, at times. And but again, like great goalie. So for me, it was interesting because I'd want to work with the senior on something that, the Swede, for example, didn't necessarily need, because he was freaking phenomenal technically. So it was cool to have these practices where, sometimes it was like I would have like a Swedish guy go first, and he would like do like the drill, and then those guys could take a look at like what he was doing, so kind of put a visual to like what I was trying to explain. And then those guys would go in the net, and the senior would go in, try to like fix up his game technically. But then like the Swede, for example, would see the competitiveness of this kid, and it would, they all made each other better. Like that's the thing. And again, it was so weird because they were so different. But I had to make sure that every drill, if the French Canadian was in or if the Swede was in, I had to explain something or tailor something to them. Like the point of the drill was not the same for every guy, So it was pretty interesting, and I learned a lot from that because at first it was kind of like you'd go in and I'd have this one drill in mind, and I would realize that didn't necessarily help everyone. Like it could help one guy, but another guy would be like didn't need that drill. So I started kind of adapting and having like that same drill, but different teaching points within the drill. So I guess that's what I had to do in order to to tailor the development to all three guys.
So here's something we've never talked about before, and I think it's important as goalie coaches. We got 2 Division I goalie coaches here, and me. But when it comes to the hierarchy, and you guys have 3 goalies that you guys all have to develop. There's going to be a number 1, whether it's a 1B or a 2, and then a 3. And you're in practice, and you have to prioritize your development and your plan. How are you guys going to break down who you're working with for the majority? Because at the end of the day, you have to win hockey games, and the coaches need to win games. So if there's a guy who's playing 96 games in a row, but you also have to develop the young guys because that guy's going to be gone one day. How are you guys going to, and this goes for Jamie too, because this is a good teaching point for him. How are you guys, and how do you balance kind of the attention that these goalies are going to get?
So for me, like this past season, there was no definite number 1. There's a whole new coaching staff coming in. And that was one of the things that me and the head coach spoke about. Was I asked him, I said, who's your guy? And he's like, I have an idea of, my 1A, 1B, and then my backup, but it's not like clear cut. Like he was the type of coach to say, whoever works the hardest in practice that week and shows me that they want to win, that's the guy who's going to play. So I kind of had to be honest, like I gave my time up to all 3 of them the same way, because there was never like a clear cut number 1, like you mentioned. Going forward, I think that when there is that clear cut number 1, you have to, that guy, it's like you have to keep giving him confidence, I think, feeding him like, certain drills where he could feel the puck, and like I don't think there's much teaching happening there. I think with the backup and the third string that you're trying to develop, I think there's a lot more teaching with those guys. But again, you probably would spend the majority of the time with your starter, because ultimately you want to, like you said, win games and get him ready for the weekend if he is playing those 2 games, So it is a bit of a tricky thing. And again, I haven't been in that situation yet, so I don't really know how. I think going forward, that's going to be something that I'll have to adapt to as well. So
I think
maybe Jamie could speak on it a little more.
Obviously, going into my first season as Tech's goalie coach, and I have yet to face this scenario, but it's definitely going to rely heavily on communication between the goalies and myself. And really it comes down to wins. So if we have a set number 1, especially as the season progresses, we're going through captain skates at the start of the year, that when there's no games, yes, we can work with everyone, an even amount, and we can develop skills, and we can get those basic foundations. And I would get a solid understanding of, what am I working with? What are their abilities? What do we need to work on? But as the season goes on, for example, if we have a designated number 1, someone who's set himself apart from the other 2, then my job is to support him in whatever way is going to get him ready for Friday and Saturday night. And if that goalie's personality is one that he wants to work on this, work on that, then now my job is to be able to work on that. But if he wants to take a more, hey, look, I'm feeling good, let's just do confidence building drills, let's get movement, let's get flow, then that's my responsibility for him, is to get him prepared. With the other 2, depending on their situation, if we have an absolute number 2 and an absolute number 3, then my job is to get those guys prepared just in case to play, and also to develop those skills, especially at the number 3, to get that number 3 skill set up to where that number 2 is, and then build that number 2 and the 2A, 2B into the number 1 skill set. Obviously, this is all in theory, because I've yet to get there, but that's how I believe the approach should be. communication based, finding out what the goal is like, what works, and if something's not working, being able to identify that and make the appropriate changes. But Derek, you're the longtime goalie coach. What do you think about, for us as two younger guys, we have a first year and a second year Division I goalie coach? What would you recommend?
You guys, you guys know, because Jamie, your first 2 years, you were kind of slotted in at number 2. That comes along with it a little bit of frustration because you want to be the guy that plays. You want to get that opportunity, and then there's frustration when you don't feel like you get that opportunity every day. And for Carmine, look, like I think you came in as a freshman and you were the number 1 guy and kind of rode that number 1 status throughout your career for all 4 years. So you're right, and it becomes communication. And when, as a goalie coach, we always need to remember that we're support staff. We're there to support the head coach and the head coach's decisions. So if you convey that to your goalies and they are comfortable and they trust you and that you're there for them, and you have that communication level like you talked about, then you're not going to develop that kind of that wall between he's the number 1 guy, I'm the number 2 guy, and the goalie coach is in the middle. Because I like how Carmine said it, is all 3 guys pushed each other this year. They all fed off each other. They all competed and they all got better, because you need to have that team. And if there's 3 goalies and you guys are kind of like a small team inside of a bigger team. And the communication from the goalie coach to that number 2 and number 3 guy is massive. Because if you want to develop those guys and you want to be able to get quality work ethic and character and team mentality out of those guys, they have to know that you're on their side and you're there to develop their game. Because you guys know they want to be the guy. They want to be the guy. And if they're a senior or a junior and they still haven't had that, their mentality might switch and they may kind of look at things negatively. So you got to be there to kind of make sure that you're still building them positively. But it's 100% communication. And you guys know it's a lot nicer and it's a lot better feeling and more confidence when you have a goalie coach there that's got your back.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like my first year, I was the 3rd string. My second year, I was the number 2. And for that first year, it was Steve Shields. Like the way he treated me, you never would have guessed that I was a 3rd string, because he put a lot of time and effort. And the starter was Phoenix Copley, and we were both the same class, but he put in the same amount of effort for both of us, because he was freshman. He wanted to develop us as goalies and get us to where we needed to be by the time we got to our junior and senior years. So just putting in the effort with all of them, but being able to, like Carmine had said, being able to read each goalie's skill sets and their personalities, and being able to tailor make each person's, training or programming to their personality and to their skill sets.
Yeah, I think you guys are both like, nailed it on the head. It's like it's a goalie coach's job is so intricate. Like there's the teaching aspect of it. I think like you got to make your guys better, but you also have to manage, in my opinion, like these people's emotions and stuff like that. Like I have to be a guy, and like Jamie, you'll see, you'll have these conversations with certain goalies like during the year where they're feeling frustrated, they're feeling down. Some of them are coming off of big highs and stuff like that, and they're just looking for somebody to talk to and somebody who could reassure them. So that's one thing that I really liked with this experience in my first year, was that I realized that I was more than just a goalie coach. It was like I was like a mentor, a good friend. Like I was there to support these guys when they needed me, and I had to be able to make that, whoever it was, whether it was like the 2nd string at the time or the third string who hadn't played in the last 8 games, I had to make sure that he was able to give me and the team his 100%. because, he might get a chance to get in net, or at the same time, that third string and that second string also have to realize that they could be frustrated and everything. It's okay, because like, it's understandable you want to play, but you have to give it your 100% every practice, every game, because you're making everybody around you better. Whether it be the starter, you're pushing him to be better, or whether it be your teammates in practice that are, coming down, taking a shot on you, like, you're making them better as well if you're giving them 100%. So I think just managing that, and it's quite the experience. Like, I'm happy that you're doing that, Jamie. You'll see next year. It's pretty fun, man. It's a good time.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Best thing in the world is, if you can't play anymore, coach. Because you still get to be involved. You still get to go to the rink every day. You still have to. You feel like you're involved in the battle of the game. You're invested. Like, it's just, you know what? Now I don't have to stretch anymore. So my hips don't hurt anymore. My knees don't hurt anymore. I don't have to take one-timers in the slot on a 1T drill from bad hockey players. So best thing. Once you can't done playing, best thing is coach. And that goes for everybody listening to this. When you guys are done playing, this is why we try to teach a lot of our guys how to manage their own game, be their own goalie coach, because just like both of you guys, when the lights kind of went off on your careers, new lights open and you can jump right back in. And so it's great to see that guys that play the game are now giving back and still involved in the game.
Now, Carmine, so you're not small, but technically in today's standard of goaltending, you would be classified as a undersized goalie. Now, there's a lot of goalies listening to this that are undersized or just downright short. And we get questions all the time about how, what's my future? Like, do they even want short goalies? Like, what do I do? How do I do? So for you, how did you kind of I would say overcome, but how did you navigate your career from junior into college and into pro when people say, oh, you're not 6'3", they didn't write you off because you made it, but how did you navigate that mentally, and just kind of talk for the younger, smaller goalies out there, to give them some advice?
Yeah, I think so. Early on in my career, before juniors, I had a pretty crazy upbringing in hockey. I was always so small. Like, man, I was tiny. And if you see, my family, we're not the biggest, but it was like, as a kid, I was so small, man, and I would always get cut all the time. It was so freaking draining because you just wanted it so bad, and it just kept happening. And then, one day I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, man, I'm done. I just stopped playing hockey. And that's another conversation. But when I started again, and I was in juniors, I wasn't even thinking about my size anymore. I was so goal driven. All I wanted in my head, it was I want to make it to D1. And that's what I'm starting with. That's my goal. It was a clear cut objective, and I could see it in my head. I was like, that's what I'm doing. So for me, the whole size thing, I didn't even think about. There was nothing at that time that I could that could distract me from what I wanted to do. And then when I got to college, when I did get my my commitment, there was another goalie coming in, Matt LaRose, who was a 6'5" goalie, and I knew that they wanted him to be the number one. He had been committed there for a while, and I was coming in. I'm probably I may be 5'11", honestly. I begged my GM to change it to 6 foot on Elite Prospect. Just freaking up.
Elite Prospects has you listed at 6 foot, and I watched you play. You're not 6 foot.
No, I'm not 6 foot. I begged him. I'm like, come on, man. Just do this for me. At least guys won't write me off right away. So he did it, and it was funny. But then, I get to college, and I was like, at this point, I'm like, okay, it's me and the 6'5" guy. Love the guy to death, by the way. He's a great guy. But I was like, I'm going to show them that I'm better than this guy. I was like, I'm going to show the whole coaching staff that I could play as well, if not better than him. And that like kind of drove me and motivated me to put the work in and to get the net. Like, and sure enough, like we ended up splitting that year. We split games all year. Like he would play the Friday, I'd play the Saturday, or vice versa. But we had this really cool like goalie battle going, and I think from there it was, guys realized that I'm not 6 foot. Like you could clearly see it. And then again in pros, it was a little different because I started in the coast and I was on a coast contract, and that was hard because you're not really playing much behind guys that are on AHL contracts and whatnot. And I think because of my size, I didn't necessarily get all of the opportunities, I would say, but I did get some opportunities to play. And at that point, it was up to me to make the most of them. And unfortunately, that was a tough year. But after that, it was like once I made it to like the college level, and I had that goalie battle with Rosie, like I didn't even think of it anymore until it was time to my sophomore year, when I had that really good season. I was ready. I was like, I want to go to NHL development camp. I feel like I'm ready for that. I've grown, I've developed as a goalie. And at that point, like, I had an advisor at the time, and I had these connections in the NHL, like a few goalie coaches that I knew and stuff like that. And it just wasn't panning out for me. Like they were all saying like, oh yeah, this team's interested in having you for development camp. My advisor was like, yeah, there's 8 teams that are interested in having you. And like, none of them invited me. And I was a little bummed out to see like, some guys would get invited and they'd have like worse save percentage than me, but they were like 6'5", and I was like, just drove me crazy a little bit. And I think it's important for like the younger goalies to know that, your size doesn't really matter. Like there's certain times where it seems like you're getting the short end of the stick or whatever, but you will get an opportunity. Like whether you're 6'5" or you're 5'11" or 5'10", like you're gonna get an opportunity. I'd say like the taller goalies probably do get a little more opportunities because, who wouldn't want to work with a guy that's big, that, has that size. But, you're going to get that one chance. And when you do get that chance, then be ready for it. Like prepare for that moment because it's going to come. If you have the numbers, it's going to come. So it was weird how it all transitioned in my life, where I went from really being upset about my size to not giving a crap, then to seeing how like, it affected me in the pros. And actually, funny enough, I know I'm rambling along about this, but I was the emergency like backup goalie for the Sens this year, and I was on the ice with Bobby Ryan, like, because he was coming off of rehab and stuff, and he was like doing his thing. So like I'm in net with him, he's shooting on me, and I see this kid Marcus Hogberg come on the ice, and he comes on the ice with Pierre, and I skate right up to Pierre, and I was like, man, Pierre, I had no shot. Like I had no shot. This kid is like 6'6", and he moves like he's 5'7". I was like, this is nuts. Like these guys are freaking crazy. But it's funny, like good times.
That's the thing is everybody wants to talk about, oh, that guy's only getting a shot because he's 6'5" or 6'6". Okay, that might be true in some scenarios. But the guys that are 6'6" in the NHL are good. They're really good, and they're 6'6", or they're really good and they're 6'4". It's not just that they're 6'4". Like let's not use that as an excuse that you're not having the success you want, because you said it perfect when you said your numbers will speak for themselves and winning will speak for itself, and you'll get opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly it. It's like we got a lot of young goalies that their first thing is are small goalies, and they think, "Oh, I'm small, I'll never make it." But apart from taking the year off hockey, when you decide to return, sounds like you just said, "Doesn't matter if I'm smaller. Like I'm gonna make it based on my ability to stop the puck and nothing else." And having that kind of mindset, like you're able to go to junior, go to college, and go pro instead of feeling, woe is me and creating excuses for yourself or creating a safety net for you to fail because of your height. And so that's a big thing that you're able to have that mindset. I hope, smaller goalies that are listening can, take something away from that.
Yeah, exactly. I think like it was so I had this attitude that year, I think, where it was just like I had like this swagger. I don't know. I just didn't care. Like I just didn't care about anything. I didn't care about anything. It was like I just want to play hockey. And then as time went on and I tasted a little bit of success here and there, it was like I was like, okay, like I want to make it to the NHL. Like that's it. But now at this point I was so like emotionally invested in that dream, of achieving it. I did, like you said, I would like create like excuses. And like there was one of my goalie coaches in the summer, I was like, one time I was really frustrated. I'm like, man, I'm too small. And he's like, man, like, are you serious right now? Like, that's your excuse? You're too small? He's like, just freaking play, just play hockey. Like, do your thing, make saves. Like, that's it. Just stop worrying about other stuff, And like you said, like, I think that's what it is. It's just, you just gotta work hard. For all the young goalies out there, like, you just gotta work hard, man, and just play and let your work speak for itself. All of those excuses are just like, it's just gibberish.
That's great. So talk about work. I need to get I've never picked your brain about this, but we'll go back to your sophomore year, my junior year, up at the John McKenna Student Ice Arena, Houghton, Michigan. First round of playoffs. Tech is playing Alabama Huntsville, and the game goes into triple overtime, and you make how many saves?
I think it was 76 that I ended up making that night.
70. So he made 76 saves on 77 shots.
Hang on a sec. I like how every time we have a conversation about a triple overtime game and it's like how many saves, the goalies are like low key. I think it was like 76. Automatically 76 saves, 13 of them in the third overtime, and just low key playing it off.
So 77 shots in a 0-0 triple overtime, and fortunately on my side is we ended up scoring with a minute left in the third overtime. But just I want to hear what was going through your mind, because I'll tell you what was going through mine afterwards. That whole game.
Okay. So fair enough. I was telling this to one of my conditioning coaches in Huntsville my senior year. I was like, if only I could go back to that game and like have that mindset in every single game. I swear to you, something came over me that game. I don't know what it was, man. I was so certain that I was gonna win that game and not be beaten. The whole game, I was like, I'm not getting scored on. I'm just not getting scored on. Like, it's not happening. It could be a breakaway or whatever. It's like nothing's getting past me. And it was like a lot of self-talk during that game. Like, I was just talking to myself the whole time, and it was like I was so sure. Like, after we got through a couple of overtimes, I was like, okay, we're actually gonna win this game. Like, I was just certain in my mind, and then sure enough, you guys freaking score. That was devastating. But I'm interested in hearing what you were thinking.
Well, going into it, is we obviously we were a higher ranked team. I think we were number 1, and you guys were 8 or 10 or however they did in Dubcha. But as it went on, I just remember going back into the dressing room between intermissions, and in my mind, like, I was so frustrated at my teammates. Like, I wasn't yelling it, but in my mind, I was like, okay, like, why are we not scoring? We're playing Alabama. And I think it was the intermission between the second to second overtime and the third, where I just said to myself, I was like, this game is never going to end because I am not going to get scored on. I know I'm not going to get beat. And the way this guy on the other side is playing, he's not going to get beat. This game is never going to end. And like I was full, like, and it almost went to 4 overtimes. And I, like, for me, like, I think there was one time where you guys actually like kind of muffined it. It squeaked between my legs that we swept it off the goal line.
Yeah, I remember that.
And after that, I was like, okay, if that didn't go in, nothing's going in. We're not scoring. This game's going to go forever. So I honestly was mentally prepared to play until about 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was such a relief. Like, for me, it was actually a relief that we scored. And it was just like, oh my God, thank God. Because I do not want to be here anymore. Like, I am so tired. Like, I had 43 shots. I couldn't imagine you with 77.
I know, it was nuts, man. But like, kind of like you, I was like prepared to go like the whole freaking, however long it was supposed to last. Like, I was like, this is sick. Like, I was having so much fun during that game. Yeah, I could see it though from your perspective because you guys were like such a high ranked team, and like, I mean, let's face it, you guys were like extremely good, you know. So for me, I was pumped because I was like, this is fun, and for you, like, I could only imagine like you're probably like, man, guys, just freaking score, like.
I just couldn't believe, like, it was just more like, it was like, this is crazy. But then once I got over the fact that what you were doing was absolutely absurd, I was like, all right, well, if he wants to dance, let's dance because I'm not going to get beat and we'll go all night.
You won.
But like, honestly, like, I think was the most incredible display of goaltending I've ever seen, ever. And I wish there must be some way that we could find that whole game. And if anyone ever wants to spend 6 hours watching it, it's just, you were so incredible that game that it was like, it's just, there's nothing I can say. I don't have anything to say. I'm speechless right now. How crazy it was.
Man, it was a good goalie battle. Like, we both played really well, so that was fun. Like, I mean,
I didn't really do anything at all, so I got to be honest with that. I just kept it to 0.
There was actually a goal called back. Like, you guys had scored, I think, if it wasn't in the first, it was in the second period.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I honestly, I don't remember like what had happened. Like, I don't remember the play, but I do remember like I was like laying there in my crease, and like, I don't know, the puck was in the net, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I just look back at the ref, and he's going like this, like waving it off. I was like, oh, thank God. But yeah, you guys had scored there, I guess. So if it wasn't for that callback goal, like, that game would have been done in 3 periods.
Do you have a copy?
I don't know, man. To be honest, I never watched that game. I think my dad might have it, but I never rewatched it.
I've never rewatched it either because I was so angry the whole time.
Man, one last thing. The next game we played the next night, I had to get injections in my ankles because I couldn't feel my feet. So I was wearing these skates that had been like so worn down, and I had them for like a year or 2. I can't remember, but the plastic was like rubbing up on my ankles, and I had no idea. The next day I go to put my skates on, I tie them, and I get on the ice for a warm-up. I did like a hard U-turn. I got off the ice, was like, Coach, I cannot skate. Like, my feet are killing me. He looks over at our trainer. He's like, you got to do something. So I got like injected and then played that game. That was funny.
I can't believe they went back.
What was the final of game 2?
3 or 4-0.
I can't remember. I think it was
low key back-to-back shutouts.
I set a school record for the most periods because technically it was 9 periods of shutouts. But like, I couldn't believe they went back with you. I was thinking, I was like, all right, Guerriero played sick and out of his mind, but he has to be dead. Like, there's no way they're gonna put him in net. I couldn't believe they went back. I mean, it was the right thing to do, but from an energy and like mental point, you must have been so drained. Anything you want to shout out? Where can people find you if they want to reach out, ask questions?
Either Twitter or Instagram, I guess. You just Guerriero35 is my handle. Just shoot me some questions, and I'll be happy to answer for sure. And guys, thanks for having me on. That was fun.